As a brand new player, there's never been a better time to jump into Sea of Thieves, so today we are going to give a review based on the latest Season 7 update, whilst also delving into the ultimate question that many of you have. Can you solo this game if you've got no mates? Too bloody right you can, and Reggie is going to explain exactly why Sea of Thieves is now an absolute gem of a game. So buckle into your rowboats and let's get chatting. Straight up people, I played Sea of Thieves on release and honestly wasn't that impressed. It felt a hollow world, it was not a place for solo players, and whilst it looked pretty, it never truly felt like the seas were a dangerous place for the pirates and thievery. Well, Season 7 is here, and my word boys and girls, it's an utter delight. I've now smashed 100 hours into this with at least half of that playing solo, with plenty more for me still to discover. So Sea of Thieves is a first person game that came out in 2016 that places you as a pirate where finding treasure is all the rage. Now this piratey world is always online, meaning you come across other players who might potentially be arseholes and steal your loot. But more on that later people. As you sell more shit, you are able to buy cosmetics for your pirate, such as new weapons, tools or new clothing. But, and this is critical to know, you cannot buy better weapons. Instead, just cooler looking ones. Now this is a double-edged sword for many of you, as it means every player in the world is on an even footing. But likewise, it also means it can detract away from progress when all you're truly working to is just different looking items. I personally like the approach, as you never feel like other players have an advantage. In terms of getting loot, there are three core ways which are presented by different factions. You have the Gold Hoarders faction, very much like my ex-wife. All she wants is treasure chests or little trinkets from you. From there, you can buy treasure maps with the cliche X marks the spot for you to find mucho treasure chests. You need to work out what island the treasure is located on, and that's based on the overall shape of it, and you can cross-reference that against the map on the captain's table, and from there you can go dig to your heart's content. Then you got the Order of the Souls, where this faction is after the skulls of dead pirates. So once you discover the island, you kill a load of skeletons and get their little bony parts and sell them off for money. And finally, you've got the Merchant Alliance, who basically wants tradable goods, so things like silk, tea, spices and whatnot. Now with all these factions, you have the opportunity to fly an emissary with them. It's a good way to grow coins quicker, in that you sign an allegiance to them during your little play session. So when you hand in your loot, you get the base value of that treasure, plus any additional coin on top. And once you level up to emissary level 5, you actually get more cash than you would from doing the shit that you hand in. It's like watching inflation happen before your very eyes. But be warned people, because there's another faction out there called the Reapers. Now they get gold for handing in emissary flags, so when you hit your level 5, your location is always going to be on their map, so you actually become the top target. So do you lower your flag, be safer and take less gold, or do you run the risk of being a target but take more reward? It's this constant risk and reward that plays out in your mind with Sea of Thieves, which makes it such an exhilarating experience. Now Sea of Thieves has progressed dramatically over the years. Yes, you can get missions from each faction, but you also come across random things like shipwrecks where loot is sunk beneath, or Little Mermaid strongholds where you swim to their depths to solve puzzles, to unlock doors, to get sumptuous prizes, or simply sailing along you will see loot floating on the surface, or there might be a random world event kicking off that encourages all players on the server to congregate for some highly valuable boss drops. It's honestly such a varied and diverse world these days that whilst long-term players might find it a little tiresome, for new players there truly is so much to bite off and chew here that you'll easily do 100 hours like Reggie and feel like you've got more to discover. Then there's the random threats such as the Kraken, which can sink your ship, or a random floating keg of explosive in the water that makes your ship go boom boom. In Season 7 you now have the ability to actually own ships in the game, giving you the addictiveness of building up your captain logbook with details like miles sailed and gold earned, naming your ship a great little boat name, or giving you the option to sell loot in a quicker fashion to a particular faction called the Sovereigns. For me it feels like Season 7 is the turning point for new players, as there is so much to collect and do, and the captaincy of owning a ship is the icing on the cake. It feels like a much more complete and rounded experience. In all of this, Sea of Thieves gives you the right tools to become that pirate legend. Your compass was of course going to direct you on the seas, your bucket is going to help bail out water from your ship as holes appear from enemy fire, and your shovel will of course dig out that treasure. Everything here, it just feels useful as a purpose, but likewise everything is also quite simplified. This isn't a game that requires a lot of knowledge of all the tools, with only 3 gun types to actually choose from, or indeed just 3 ships to choose from. Those ships are based on size too, that's what she said. A sloop is great for solo players, a brig is great for 2 to 3 people, or a galleon for those with 4 mates to play with, which is the maximum a crew can be. But let's talk more on the sloop and how easy it is to actually solo. You see, sailing a ship requires a lot of teamwork. Someone needs to manage the cannons, someone needs to steer the ship, someone needs to manage all the sails and get the right wind direction, and finally someone help navigate and look out for threats on the horizon, upon which there are many. So it seems like a lot, but on the sloop everything is just positioned kindly for you, where a quick look over your shoulder gives you the location of your ship on the map below. To your right or left you have easy access to the sails and the wheel, and your cannonballs are conveniently located on the top deck. So all you really need to do is just scan the horizon for threats and go from there. Are you shooting the cannons much in the sloop? Well, not really. I consider solo playing more like a smash and grab. I, for example, farm these little ghost forts where you take down a few enemies and that results in you being given a little key to a storeroom. Here the loot is vast and you can easily load up and away you go. You get in, you get out, you sell it even quicker. It's totally a workable solution, and nearly all quests can be managed in this way. Don't go looking for fights unless you are excellent at what you are trying to do. However, single player does have its problems, and it's arguably considered the hard mode. Once you get a few mates on, you discover how much easier things actually are, and it's an absolute joy to play. You get yourself loot quicker, and generally speaking, you'll deter more people from attacking you. But the downside, of course, is that whilst you have a more powerful ship, it turns like the Titanic, and against the wind, it's almost impossible to catch up with those pesky single-player sloops. If you can get a few people playing together though, you will have an absolute ball playing this. It's just constant laughing and pissing about. But let's talk about one of the major issues people have with Sea of Thieves, and that's griefing. You will talk to strangers on this game, only for them to suddenly turn around and kill you. Or perhaps the most disheartening part is dotting to sell all your hard-earned treasure to suddenly get rammed and attacked by other players who steal everything, and it sucks donkey balls because you potentially lose hours of hard work. But guess what, you socky sods? The clue is in the title, Sea of Thieves, and pirating is literally the fundamental part of the game. I appreciate griefing in other games is a no-no for many, but I would argue being a pirate by definition means there are a few boundaries for us to have here. For example, Reggie and his mates, we smashed a high-level reaper ship that had docked where they begged us to not sink their ship. The kids were practically in tears, people. We didn't listen, of course, because the purpose of reapers is to hassle others. And to our delight, we discovered they must have had 150 GGs worth of treasure stacked up across all of their decks. It must have taken them bloody hours to farm it, and we gladly took it, people. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Likewise, I've been docked at a port and got my arse handed to me for absolutely no reason. Them be the rules, kids. So if that puts you off, then this isn't the game for you. Otherwise, stop complaining about pirates doing pirate things. So what don't I like about the game? Well, I still think a little bit more help can be given to those solo players, namely in the form of getting treasure on and off your ship, based on the fact that when you are so exposed as a single player, you're potentially docked, I don't know, 4 times as long as those 4-player crews. It's a frantic time and stress-inducing moment as you fear an attack at any point. So something as simple and minor as giving players a short harpoon that can be attached to your body just to get treasure down off your ship would make the world of difference. However, perhaps my biggest gripe is more simple to fix. Even now, after all this time, there is still a general lack of explanation as to what the is going on. Yes, there is a tutorial, but there still isn't enough education of how the systems work or what the hell the different things mean in the world that gets presented to you. You see that skull cloud in the sky? No explanation of it, people. Just see what happens when you get there. As for enemies, I got frustrated no end as to why some died and some didn't. No way was I to know that some get blinded by light and some get stronger as they go in the water. The general way in which voyages work is also a learning curve. The world map and indeed the treasure maps could do with a bit more fleshing out on the tutorial itself. But there are these little things that I think should be explained much more, such as how to recognise a ghost ship in the distance versus a player controlled ship. Reddit is going to be your friend here, and you're going to pick up very, very fast all the little nooks and crannies of this game. But honestly, a 2 to 3 hour mini campaign in a closed world would have done this game the world of good for brand new players. Now, graphically, it's stupendous. I mean, just look at it. I play this in ultra wide, and for me, it's the best HDR game on PC. It looks absolutely stunning as the sun sets and the orange hue glistens and sparkles on top of the ocean waves. Clouds slowly build into these mega storms, and water splashes onto the deck of your ship to create a shiny surface. But the real star of the show here, people, it's the water. Each time I play this, it never fails to impress, as it looks so incredible and realistic. And even today, I don't think there is a game that comes close to the realism of the water in Sea of Thieves. It has the foam of the tips of the waves, and your boat and character will bubble accordingly. And not that you feel seasick, of course, but the game wonderfully brings to life the immersion of just how awful some of these journeys must have been back in the day. Then comes the artistic style. Yes, it's got that cartoony look, but it's just perfect for the setting, and indeed it ensures the game runs well across a multitude of systems. And yes, it does run very, very well. The contrasting colours and vibrant look and feel of the islands also make this game a looker, and there'll be times you literally just want to chill out, do some fishing off the side of your boat and soak it all in. As for sound, it's your piratey affair, with little shanties being offered to you in the form of your own instrument, or indeed the music kicking up when danger is about to occur from, say, a shark or a ghost ship. But the best part is the sound effects and in general the environmental detail. I freaking love sailing through a storm, hearing the thunder above and having the rain pelt down. The waves sound brutal as they crash against your ship, and you just get the sense always of impending doom. But also, it's got this lovely calm moment as you sail into an island shallow. The wind comes down and you can hear almost a pin drop, but for the creak of your boat as it turns, or indeed the slight breakage in the water. Truly, gang, Sea of Thieves is a tour de force on the sound front. So here we are then in 2022. The world has gone to shit. We're all about to die. And Sea of Thieves has been out for many, many years. And yes, in 2022, it is a frantic, rewarding, hilarious swashbuckling affair. At times it will eat you up and spit you out, but you too will eat up others and do the same. It lacks a lot of clarity for new players, which can easily be researched, but if you power through, you will find a magical game to spend hours in. And I'm glad to report that us solo players, there is a fully fleshed out game here. It's not always the easiest path, but it is still incredibly satisfying. It regularly goes on sale or can be found on Xbox Pass, and for me should be in everyone's library, because Season 7 is where the game shows its true maturity. Until next time, people, Reggie out.